and welcome to Increasing the Value of Your Calls with Reputation Management. As part of Numerical's ongoing efforts to educate and empower consumers, businesses, and policymakers on issues related to call blocking and labeling, communications delivery, telecommunications standards and regulations, and entity identity, we're entering the webinar sphere today to talk about reputation management solutions, strategies, and best practices. Just a little bit about Numerical, some background for you. Our mission, in a quest to restore trust and reliability to communications, our innovative technologies, regulatory expertise, and industry collaboration aim to create a safe and trusted calling ecosystem for businesses and consumers alike. In 2018, Numerical was launched by Rebecca Johnson in response to the FCC Robocall Strike Force's introduction of call blocking and labeling technologies, which, as you know, resulted in a significant increase in unintended drops in contact rates and high amounts of improper spam call labeling for legal call originators. We were the first solution that enables control over how calls are being presented to consumers and improve the accuracy of their calling identity. As a co-founder and chair of the Enterprise Communications Advocacy Coalition, Rebecca has dedicated her life to advocating on behalf of consumers and legal callers everywhere. So whether you work in safety and security, finance, healthcare, utilities, consumer goods, you name it, we have laid the foundation for wanted and legal calls to remain trusted. Our entity identity management solution provides control and visibility that you need to monitor the phone numbers that represent your identity when you call. So we're the first solution that not only monitors, but also remediates spam labels to accurately display identity and ultimately improve the delivery of your calling communications. Through verified identity, number reputation management, smart branding as a managed service, and proactive compliance management, Numerical has enabled hundreds of legal entities to prevent improper call blocking and employ best practices to reduce spam labeling from harming phone numbers that represent your business. We also work very closely with the top service providers, analytics companies, and communications platform providers to provide visibility and management across all major stakeholders who affect how your communications are being presented to consumers and ultimately give you control over your brand's reputation. Excuse me. We serve a wide variety of customers, like I mentioned, across several industries, including enterprise brands, contact centers, voice service providers, and more. I'm so sorry, excuse me. Specific businesses like banks, including but not limited to banks, healthcare providers, and insurance companies have found tremendous value in our solution, which has proven to be the long-term, scalable, and flexible solution that allows for seamless shifts in an organization's needs as an organization's needs grow over time. So this, of course, a lot to digest, kind of. It's just a high-level overview of Numerical's magic. Our industry expert, Molly, will be digging a little deeper with you and taking any questions you may have. Speaking of, if you do have questions, feel free to pop them into the chat at any time, and we'll do our best to address them during the Q&A session at the end. Just as a heads up, your questions will only be seen by hosts and panelists. They'll be anonymous to everybody else. This brings me to our featured industry expert, Molly Weiss, the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at Numerical. Molly is an experienced marketing leader working in the communications, demand generation, and technology industries. She's been a member of the Numerical team since its founding. She's been here every step of the way as we've watched the twists and turns of changing call labeling algorithms, stir-shaken declaratory rulings and deployment, the introduction of branded calling, and so much more. So 5.5 years later and still paving the way forward in innovation, we are so grateful for her experience, agility, and dedication to Numerical's mission. With that said, I would love to hand it off to you, Molly.
Thank you, Sarah. And thanks everybody who's joined us today. Happy to have you. So let's walk through this agenda a little bit and then we're going to dive right on in. Today, we are going to start by reviewing reputation management, what it is, how it can increase the value of your calls. We will review how you're able to take control of your call identity, manage that identity across multiple provider networks. We will discuss why remediation is such an important part of reputation management, how branding, when strategically added to campaigns, could be another additional value. And then we'll wrap up with an end-to-end view of kind of what it takes for a successful overall outbound communication strategy in general, and save some room, as Sarah mentioned, for some Q&A at the end. Feel free to drop those into the chat window as you like, and we'll get to that at the end. So let's start here with reputation management. So familiar images here. If you're anything like me, you see these types of calls floating into your cell phone every day, potential spam, scam, fraud risk, all this stuff. Exactly what you see on the screen is going to vary by provider, but each major wireless network provider does give free scam and spam identification to the subscribers on its network. So everybody is using this, and it's not going away anytime soon. I think as a consumer, we can all appreciate that this gives us that choice of whether or not we may or may not want to answer or ignore it. But on the flip side, this also creates a lot of confusion and missed opportunities when we are waiting for those calls from our pharmacies or appointments being scheduled, delivery statuses, in-store pickup reminders, all kinds of other calls, you name it. When we do want to answer those, we're probably not going to get the chance to, because when they come delivered as a spam, we're going to just ignore it. So this is where the problem lies. And you as a business, you put a ton of effort into creating your ideal campaign plan. You all know this. You've perfected your agent scripting. You select a dialer platform that you're really happy with. You scrub your calling list. You do all the stuff to make sure you have up-to-date contact information. You're ready to go. And at that final moment, when you're placing these outbound calls out and they're landing on your called party's device, it looks exactly like the dozens of robocalls we all ignore every day. And here's the problem. This is devastating when this happens, and it can significantly reduce the effectiveness of an entire campaign right then and there. So even though you are a legitimate business and you're communicating with your calling lists based on consent, consumer preference, all the things you need to be watching, all the best practices in place, you're still at risk of being blocked and labeled. So this is what we're going to talk through today. Now, there are many factors that are impacting reputation on your outbound calls. Some of the biggest factors are here. This is what leads to your identity becoming classified as the scam or spam. You're seeing things, customer complaints is a big one, especially those complaints that land in federal databases, high volume calling, inconsistent traffic patterns, the time of day you're calling, aggressively swapping numbers in and out, a bunch of different things go into this. And all of this is to say, with labeling really being driven by a number of factors and treated differently from network to network, there's no silver bullet solution available out there that takes care of all of this very easily. But the thing to note is the activity of your outbound dialing, and that, how you manage your numbers and your campaigns does actually matter quite a lot, which is really the point here. This is a good feature of algorithms if you want to look at it that way, because no matter how legitimate a business is, no agents should be able to be going rogue out there, calling people at midnight, harassing customers, et cetera. So there does need to be that feedback loop. And there's always going to be a balance in solving number reputation between identifying who exactly the caller is, who you are, what numbers you're using, and what exactly are you doing on those numbers. And this is the balancing act. So when we talk about who is involved here, who are all the players in the mix with all of this, we're taking a look at who's on the screen here. So we know that call analytics algorithms are put in place by each of the major wireless carrier networks. Each one of them is working with a partner, and they're all trying to improve their ability to identify unwanted and illegal callers before they're able to defraud us. These algorithms are constantly changing. They're trying to improve their accuracy, which again is a good thing. We do want consumers to be protected from fraud. But with each of these changes, we do see impacts to legal calls being improperly labeled as the algorithms change. And so this is something that you need to constantly stay on top of. Now, one of the big challenges in the number reputation space is, how do you address the discrepancies from network to network in terms of call display? How do you manage issues with numbers that are happening maybe on one network, but not on another? How do you streamline your efforts so you're not constantly trying to submit tickets at 4 different places every time you start a new campaign? And all kinds of struggles that arise from influence in this call display coming from multiple providers all at the same time. So the first question I'll address here is, how does one gain access to influencing this ever-changing ecosystem of call display? And all of this starts with establishing an identity that the carriers and their analytics partners can trust. So this essentially is you declaring you're a legitimate business. You're calling legally based on best practices and consent. Here's who I am. here are the numbers I'm calling on. I'm not trying to hide who I am. I want my called parties to be able to trust me. I want the carriers to know who I am so they don't mistake me as a fraudulent robocaller. And all of this starts with what is identity management. This is establishing yourself as a trusted entity so those carriers have the knowledge and that confidence in your legitimacy that they do agree to remove spam and scam labeling. They do agree to influence the way that they're looking at your calls where appropriate. Once we've officially identified that your identity is not a scam, you're not a scammer. Identity verification is at the very core of the Numerical platform, and this is how we open the door to you to be able to take control of your calling identity, manage that identity, and achieve visibility and a pathway then to correct the improper labeling that you can see. So let's dive in a bit more to what this all looks like within our platform. Here, you will see our entity identity management home screen dashboard. This is what you'll have access to as a Numerical customer. So for all the Numerical customers on the line, this looks very familiar to you. What you see here is the main landing page for obtaining a quick snapshot of your number, reputation, health, and statistics. So it's a self-service platform where you'll be able to manage your own identity and identities of additional brands or clients that you represent, if this is applicable to you. You'll be able to review your phone numbers that are registered, the registration status. So if there's any new numbers that are pending registration completion, like mid-process, you'll be able to see that here. You will see risk ratings identified by colored lines. Those will update every week. Phone numbers that are classified in green and yellow have no labeling associated, and numbers in orange and red are in need of intervention. So the great thing here about this intervention now that we have this visibility into is that not only do we have this path to remediate it across the carrier ecosystem for you, across all of these different providers, we also do this 100% for you. So this means no intervention is going to be needed by you to do anything in terms of remediation. You don't need to send us a notification or tell us that something is labeled as a spam or scam. We already know this, and we're on this for you. And this is a real differentiator. We're really proud to offer this. And in the event you're wondering how necessary remediation is or how often we have to submit these requests, like what's the frequency here in general, allow me to share some stats from this year's remediation report. So we put this out at the beginning of the year, kind of taking a look back at the last couple of years trending on stats. And just a quick look at this chart reveals a pretty wild looking uptick in remediations. The bottom line there in the chart, it represents our 2021 remediation statistics, where our client engagement team remediated 23-some thousand phone numbers on behalf of our verified identity customers. Fast forward that to 2022. And this number was up 61% to just over 61,000 numbers remediated. Based on how we're tracking this year, 2023 being about halfway through the year, we're forecasting a 158% increase on top of that in our remediation numbers that we're projecting by the end of December. So all this to say, we've processed more remediation requests for more customers than any other provider out there. We literally live and breathe remediations every single day, and can come from a very confident place in saying, if you need a reliable pathway to remediation of mislabeled calls across the wireless ecosystem, Numerical can absolutely be this partner for you. Ability to remediate is a very important function to investigate when you're out there evaluating a partner for call delivery improvement. There are monitoring only solutions that are available in the market, and these will alert you to the status of your number labeling and then kind of turn it back to you to make decisions on what to do about the issue. There are also monitoring solutions that offer remediation add-ons. But our recommendation when looking at all of this is really to ask yourself, because there's a lot of options available, right? How much time and energy and investment of funds do you really need or want to spend on this? When it comes to us, we offer unlimited remediations, basically as many as you need to keep your numbers healthy. And this comes standard for every customer, but, and with no intervention needed by you, like we said, but we'd like to keep you in the know of what's available out there. And in terms of how your remediations are being processed, then we also keep you fully up to speed with what takes place here. So I want to show you another dashboard. This is the remediation dashboard. So this is another feature that we offer that we're super proud of. With this dashboard, what we're doing is going above and beyond just monitoring the problem with visibility and control here to monitor the solution. So this is another big differentiator. This is the only remediation dashboard that exists. And what this does is provide a comprehensive view of the remediation status of your numbers. So you don't just have to take our word for it that we're out there doing something. You can actually see it in here exactly what the progress is. Once our client engagement team has submitted a number of yours to the remediation queue, it's going to show up here. You can track that resolution progress. This gives you full access to the history and journey that your numbers take from start to finish, with overall success rate then being tracked number by number where labeling has been changed by the carrier network. The importance of remediation really cannot be overstated. It is the solution to the problem of call labeling versus a path to avoid it. It's the path to keeping your campaigns consistent and as uninterrupted as possible by negative reputation. It's the path to connecting with customers with clean numbers. And in reviewing our remediation statistics on the last slide there, what happens as the result of this is typically once spam, scam, fraud labels are identified, remediated, most businesses do see improvements in contact rates in the average of 1% to 5% range, with outlying customers experiencing success of up to 20 or 30% post remediation, and keeping clean numbers in circulation for a long period of time. And it goes without saying that a lot of factors do play into determining this success, and how this impacts your bottom line is going to vary based on exactly what you're doing with your outbound call strategy. But think about how much time in the end you want to spend monitoring and remediating your numbers. This might be 0 hours a week. This might be a few hours of time a week. Maybe you are willing to dedicate a full-time role to cracking the code here, but either way, just know that there are partners out there who can support you in any end of the spectrum, but we're here to provide that full end-to-end support so you can focus on other more critical areas of your business while we're over here taking care of remediations day in and day out. So I want to also tell you about a brand new feature that's joined the Numerical Number Reputation family back in May. This is our new number check feature. So unlike improper labeling remediation that is unlimited and standard to all customers, this number check is a new add-on feature that can be used when you would like to visually confirm the display of your calls, especially in between regular reporting cycles. This is an awesome use case for, say, like midweek, you're running a big campaign, some of your agents or your callers are starting to get feedback that maybe a particular number might be showing up as a spam somewhere. With number check, what you can do is head into the numerical portal. This is self-service, and spot check the number or numbers in question by submitting them in a batch. Numbers will then come back with a visual confirmation of a real call that's been placed to see exactly how that's been delivered on one or multiple networks. Big difference here between number check's ability to visually confirm labeling versus some of the other solutions that are out there to show you visual screenshots of phone numbers is really your ability to control with us and with number check the time that the calls are being placed. So other solutions out there do exist that can pull screenshots kind of on a set schedule. You don't necessarily have influence on this schedule when these calls are being placed. Traffic is going to be crossing your numbers, and you don't really know exactly when. So the difference here is that number check has been designed to be this kind of spot check only function that you are in complete control of, this frequency that it's run and the time of day that you're testing. And the bonus here being any number check batches that do come back with a spam label identified, these are going to be added to our customer engagement team's remediation queue. And the remediation progress can again be tracked in that remediation tracker dashboard we just looked at, in the same way that you're going to be able to track other remediations through our standard operating processes. So that is number check. Now, once you've established clean number reputation, some out there choose to also sprinkle a little branding on top to take calls another additional step forward. So if you've done any research at all into branded technologies, and you'll see this marketed all over the place, you'll see a lot of claims on amazing double, triple answer rates, display of your logo to, X number of millions of Americans out there. But I'm going to focus here today on a little more conservative branding strategy, where in the right circumstances, adding your caller name to strategic cross-section of your call traffic will likely get you a little extra juice. So let's dive in a little more to exactly kind of what that looks like here. So for starters, just want to set the baseline. The path we're recommending here is starting by protecting your phone numbers with reputation management. That's going to remove that negative labeling and be able to keep that clean through ongoing remediation. From there, for calls specifically with intents where customers, patients, prospects are waiting for a callback from you, Branding in those cases is going to be a great addition on strategic call attempts to reach these folks with that instant recognition of who's calling. Branding is available across all the big three wireless providers. They all display things a little bit differently. Biggest thing I'll just note here from the start is that if you are calling to an Apple device, so all the iPhones out there, branding is going to be limited to the caller name only at this point in time. And if you're calling somebody out there on an Android, if the device is configured with compatible settings, because there are some things to keep in mind there, you'll be able to display a logo in some cases, like you see here pictured on this phone over in the right-hand side with the nice little logo up in the middle. So as you'd imagine, when your customers know exactly who's calling them, and especially if they're waiting to hear from you, they're going to answer if they're free or they're going to call you back when it's more convenient. That branding is going to stay in the missed call log as well. So they'll be able to see that name later if they did miss the call. But when it comes to structuring the ROI around the investment to add branded calling, there's one big piece of the puzzle here to consider, as we are, again, similar to number reputation, talking about discrepancies between provider networks and a disconnectivity in general across the three. So essentially, how are you going to manage all of this is what a lot of folks are coming up against now. So wanted to share with you today the Smart Branding platform. This is within Numerical's identity management platform. This has the industry's only one-stop kind of smart branding platform, managing all of this together across the full ecosystem. And we like to call this smart because it allows you to be smart about making the branding choices that are specifically going to help you without kind of jumping into an all-in situation if you're not ready to, or if that doesn't make sense for you. So you could think about branding every single one of your phone numbers on every single network. But since the costs of the service are controlled at that network level, and this is a new, really awesome technology, so this is still coming at a premium, you may find an all-in strategy to start to get pretty significant looking. Our recommendations here, if you're just kind of starting to think about this, not super sure exactly if it will impact you or not, start branding on a smaller scale with a few numbers. Test out a strategy. Maybe don't choose one network, choose two, choose three, toggle on and off, and test this branding strategy, monitor for impact to your contact rates, conversion rates, callback rates, whatever you're looking at here, and then revise your strategy, rinse and repeat. And this is all totally possible through our smart branding platform. This allows that ultimate flexibility to layer branding in on top of a number reputation management strategy, where you are able to compare the success of your non-branded campaigns to the success of your branded campaigns and be able to make those smart decisions for where turning branding on and off is directly going to impact you. You can make these decisions to turn these campaigns on and off from the portal. And by adding that branding only where it counts, you can take advantage of this technology in little bite-sized pieces, if that's really more where you're at, without having to commit to a total overhaul of your strategy and a potentially hefty price tag associated with it as well. Now, we've just covered a lot of topics here. So I want to kind of bring us all back here to look at this whole comprehensive outreach strategy, because there are a number of pieces involved here. So when it comes to building this full strategy, when you're trying to improve your outbound communications, first and foremost, the value in registering, monitoring, and remediating all of your telephone numbers across all carriers will result in immediate and positive impact to your patients, your prospects, members, customers, et cetera. Reputation here doesn't exist in a vacuum. So acknowledging the influence of your own dialing practices is going to remain key to truly overcoming blocking and labeling for both internal and external factors. Like we looked at, there's things that you're doing that can contribute to this. So it's really about thinking about your best dialing practices, how you're managing those strategies, coupled together with reputation management to protect those numbers and have that visibility to see when you do have labeling to be able to take action and then address that. So to that note, you want to look for a solution that's going to give you that complete toolbox of solutions to be able to help you, hopefully managed easily in one place, a solution that combines this number reputation protection element with that prevention, with dashboards so you can see and review current history, status of number hygiene as it changes over time. Made it stronger by the ability to spot check the display of your identity with real screenshots, where you really need that visual confirmation in the moment to be able to confirm exactly how those calls are being delivered. And then lastly, we suggest you think about how much time and energy in an investment do you want to put towards this strategy? What is success worth? What is the success of improving your outreach strategy going to be worth to you in the end? What is that ROI? So the way we like to think about this is, do you want to take the time to do all of this on your own? Or do you want to combine multiple vendors? Or are you looking more for one all-inclusive partner relationship? As Sarah mentioned at the start of today's webinar, I have been with Numerical since our beginning, and we are this only solution that's been focused on the optimization and the efficiency of your calling operations, especially when it comes to that use of branded calling, which is brand new. We get a lot of questions about branding now, and how does this all relate to everything else we've been doing? And essentially, it just boils down to giving you flexible options to be able to manage the costs and the technology where it makes sense, all within one platform, without, totally uprooting a strategy that has been successful with, such as reputation management, calling customers on clean numbers. And where could you add branding on top to just take that a little further in those instances where it's really going to be able to push the dial? So with that, we've covered all of our major topics, and I would like to shift us now into some Q&A. Sarah, do we have anything that's been submitted from our attendees?
We do. Our first question is a little bit of a two-parter. Are there any guarantees around success protecting numbers from spam? Are all numbers able to be cleaned?
Okay, I would like to flip to another visual aid to answer that one, because I think I know the path we're on here. Let me shoot forward into the appendix. Okay, so are there any guarantees around success here? So that's a great question. There are no solutions that are going to be able to tell you with 100% accuracy, yes, every single call is going to be able to be fixed and clean, because like we said, it does matter what you're doing on these numbers. And we don't want somebody to be able to, whitelist, the classic idea of the whitelist a phone number, and then just turn around and start blasting customers with harassing messages. So the feedback loop is very important here. So while there's not 100% success, what Numerical maintains is a 97% success rate, protecting, and that is the 97% of your typical volume, your overall volume of numbers. You can expect 97% of those for most customers to remain clean through the process of number reputation protection with remediation sprinkled on top there. That 3% that remains kind of in flux, though, that's the area that we're going to be remediating, watching with the remediation dashboard, processing those remediations as they come into play. Typically, when you see numbers entering into that phase, that's where we take a more consultative look at what might you be doing on those phone numbers? How can we work with you to determine if there's maybe something in the agent scripting, or if there's maybe a different number usage strategy we should think about here? All that goes into trying to get you as absolutely far as we possibly can with this. And we're going to be able to work with you on all sides of that. Our client engagement team is awesome, and they are absolutely the experts here. And as a free open line of communication to them to work through these specific problems outside that 97%-ish zone that's going to be healthy on an ongoing basis and maintained and protected by just the registration of the phone numbers. And you can see here some numbers on the right. It takes about 1.6 days for us to process a remediation request, and then right below it, 1.5 days to address support requests of any kind. So we're super proud of our client engagement team. They are amazing for our customers on the line. You have a relationship with them. They're great. And for anybody else out there, they really are a differentiator when it comes to the service. And as you kind of can glean from this is a very nuanced industry, and there is a lot going on and things change all the time. So having an open line of communications to this team is a really great asset to help you just figure out when all of a sudden your numbers start being labeled, you didn't even do anything, you don't know what's going on. Reach out to us and we can help you get it squared away, because more likely than not, something else changed with the algorithms, or there's something external going on that we can work through with you to help you get back on track.
Well said. Our next question is, does adding branding remove spam or scam labeling?
So it can, yes, it can. So adding branding, it can remove spam and scam labeling in most instances, but you also need to think about devices that you're calling. So in the event that you're calling somebody on a phone that's not branding compatible, they're not going to see that brand. What might you see instead? That's something to think about. It's also a good idea to take a look at how much effort and time do you want to put into branding? Because in the event that you choose to solve spam labeling with branding, that means you're going to have to brand every single number on every single carrier network. So you've got 3 carrier networks out there to brand and 3 sets of projects to manage. If you have the time and energy and investment to go down that path, it would solve your spam labeling problems. But it's also going to end up probably with a pretty high cost to it, where you might want to take a look at branding added in on top of a number representation strategy where you can control the cost a bit better without just branding everything. So that's really kind of what you have to think about there. If you're using branding to solve labeling, what is that actually going to look like from a cost perspective versus a reputation management solution, which is going to come in at a lower cost point where you could add branding on top of and have labeling solved through reputation management.
Excellent. We have a few more questions for you. They're just rolling in. How can we verify that Numerical's reporting is accurate? And how can we verify that a number has actually been remediated? Looking to verify this information outside of Numerical's portal.
Okay. So outside of Numerical's portal, the best strategy I think I could give you to verify would be to the classic, have a group of different types of devices on different types of networks and call those in a moment that you're looking to try to verify. That would be a way to do it outside of the portal. Inside of the portal, the verification tools are going to be in that remediation dashboard to track the success when remediations are being processed. And on top of that, there is that number check feature that we just added. So this is like having your own personal bank of devices to call at any given time, except for it's just in the portal. You run a batch of numbers that calls our bank of devices to show you with visual screenshots how those calls are going to be delivered. That's how you can get that confirmation.
All right, next question. There's been some chatter recently around the carriers and that they might be looking to consolidate the branded calling offering. Is there anything you know about that you can share? And is there any impact on the branded calling feature Numerical can provide on the major carriers, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon?
That is a very good question. Yeah, there's always all kinds of chatter around this. Consolidation, being able to resell, refer customers from one network to another. Yeah, this is certainly going on. So when you're shopping around, these are good questions to ask. Should you be somebody who is interested in branding and looking to learn directly from each of the carrier networks, what they provide and who they work with in terms of reselling and partnerships is a really good question to ask each of them independently. For us, none of this is really going to impact the solution that we're providing to you. Our portal offers access to be able to manage branding across the top providers. So we have this ability, others do as well.
I am loving all of these questions. How is Numerical Smart Branding different than the CNAM that is registered to a phone number?
Okay, this is a good question. It is very different. So the smart branding, so branding in general. So let's leave Numerical Smart Branding aside because this is really the management tool to manage all the branding. The branding itself, as it is managed with each of the carriers, is powered by a different technology than CNAM. CNAM is essentially was the legacy caller ID name, which was tied to landline devices. CNAM has been around forever. Branding now in terms of showing it on wireless devices versus those landline displays. Some of the branding partners do reference CNAM when they're determining the way a name should show up on a wireless device. This is also coupled with other new pieces of information that join together to form the name that's going to show up on a cell phone versus the name that's going to show up on a wireline phone. So CNAM can influence it, but it's not the same technology. When you go through the process of procuring branding now, in terms of specifically the technology to brand on a wireless phone, some of those do reference CNAM, but where you have the control now is to specifically define how you want your name to be displayed to the wireless caller that you're calling, versus relying on CNAM databases, which can be out of date. There's multiple of those too. It's a lot harder to keep CNAM databases up to date. So the pathway you take when you invest in a branding calling strategy now, specifically with the wireless carriers, is being able to define and control that name versus relying on it being dipped in and out of a CNAM database. So it's more accurate, reliable, up to date, and current.
Excellent. Next question. Will you typically put SLAs or service level agreements in the contract of statement of work regarding days to remediate or days to address support requests?
I don't know the answer to that, as I have not looked into the contractual language recently, but we will certainly, if we know, Sarah, if we know who asked this question, we can absolutely follow up with email in regards to that once we get back with our contracting team to get the answer.
We do not know who it was, but if that person would like to anonymously submit their name, we can follow up with them. We do have one more question here. On display of brand logo, is that stock Android 13 Plus, an unlocked pixel that is not burned in at the factory with a particular wireless carrier?
Very good question. I am not 100% sure. I do know the display of the brand. Yes, that one. So this would be an AT&T specific. So we'll go back to this and let me see. Let's go back. Scroll on back here. Yeah, so we're talking about this phone over here on the right. This is an AT&T network Android. I don't know the specifics of that device though. I know that this is one of our real branded calls though. So let's follow up back too with the individual who asked this question, and we can verify that via email.
That sounds great. It looks like, unless anyone else has anything they'd like to submit, that is the end of our questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. These were some really good questions. We love that. Sarah, shall I turn it back around to you to bring us?
Let's do it.
Okay, awesome.
Yes. Thank you so much, Molly. I always enjoy watching you speak so much. I could honestly listen to you all day. I'd like to thank everybody else here for joining us for our webinar today. Before we say goodbye, I wanted to draw your attention to just a few of the resources that we have available to both prospective and current customers. Everyone who attended today should look for a follow-up email from me with quick links to all of these resources that you see on the screen. And you'll have an opportunity to connect with our business development representative, Andrew Licata, if this presentation resonated with you and you'd like to talk more about how our reputation management solution can increase the value of your calls. Numerical.com also hosts all of our case studies, industry white papers, blog posts. We have a Tuesday Talks Live podcast, a masterclass series, and more. So please feel free to check us out there as well. Again, I appreciate you all so much for joining us today. We had a blast. Keep a lookout for that email, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.